I'm Daryl McLean. I'm a voice actor, impressionist, composer, and clown-stroke-daft bugger. My favourite Doctor Who story is The Chase from 1965.
Right, well, we have a Richard Martin high angle on the video. If you're listening to the podcast, you'll just have to imagine the top of my balding pate. You may just be imagining the episode, but if you're watching along, it's time to press play in 3, 2, 1. Episode 4 of The Chase, which is a journey into terror. I was going to go to bed, if you've been watching this in order, which is what I would recommend. I did the first 3 episodes this morning. I was going to go to bed, but it's Halloween as I record this. So I thought I'd stay up and have a spooky night in a haunted house. I've just watched Nigel Neal's adaptation of The Woman in Black. Whoa. This is very clever from Terry Nation, because you go, well, if it's just a chase, they can just keep going. And he'd got an episode ending he needed to sort out. He just goes, oh, they've shaved 5 minutes off, 4 minutes off. What does that mean? Well, they just have. How? Just have. And they're getting closer. Which means that suddenly the chase is finite, and it means that you can just sort of chuck in an episode ending when you want to. Journey into terror. Now, I remember getting the Discontinuity Guide, which is a very important book in my development. And it did that thing of, which I sort of hate now, but it was very refreshing then. And I don't hate the Discontinuity Guide. I just think that everyone's so keen to pick out mistakes now. But it was because I think I'd seen so much Doctor Who. It was actually refreshing to have, you can see the back of the TARDIS there. Well, that's a nice high angle shot with smoky cauldrons and things. It was refreshing to suddenly start looking for mistakes that they pointed out, because I'd kind of done Doctor Who, I'd started collecting episodes when I was 11 or 12 or something, and by now I was 19, 20, so I'd watched all the episodes a gazillion times. So to suddenly, be looking for things that the writers of the Discontinuity Guide pointed out, though they didn't point out the wire on that bat. But of course I was watching in much worse quality, and so were they probably. And the reason I bring that up here is because this is an episode that has a lot of mistakes in it. But in keeping with the Abraham Lincoln, the Beatles, the Mary Celeste, you now go Universal horror films, which were, I would stay up late, on nights like this, and they would be shown, after midnight. I even made a scrapbook. And there was something about the old black and white, spooky, with actors like Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, who you knew were dead. So it was like the past was talking to you. They were ghosts themselves who were entertained by, skeletons, as it were. I found those so scary. So again, the idea that, Terry Nation is not daft. Every episode is a headline. This is what's really scary. Dracula and Frankenstein. Actually, you know that Frankenstein's the name of the doctor, not the monster. Shut up, I will. And this is...
No, you're quite right. We mustn't behave like children. No, we mustn't now. Come on,
but you're doing...
Let's help the doctor and look.
You're mining it for the comedy, MaureenOBrien, and that's actually quite right, because it means it's manageable terror for the youngsters. And look, that's great. That's a spooky moment. But one of my happiest memories of Doctor Who and my lucky experiences centres around this episode, which I'm looking forward to doing. But they've done the very Terry Nation thing of they've split up. And of course there's a photo call, isn't there, of the Doctor with the 2 copyright infringing Universal horrors. Well, certainly as we'll see, the Frankenstein's monster design is Oh, that was a nice sudden cut. It's not Frankenstein's monster, it's Universal Pictures, it's Frankenstein's monster. That was a nice quick cut after the skeleton dropped in. Oh, that's actually rather creepy. And yeah, that's really nice. Seeing the ghost, the grey lady passing through here, and seeing it in sort of tarted up quality, it's actually more effective than the sort of slightly grubby video, because you could make it seem like a genuine spook and a genuine ghost. That's quite a nice high angle down into the laboratory. It's a very curious white outfit that I'm guessing it's not white that Ian's got on. Frankenstein, John Maxim, and I think he's credited as Frankenstein, isn't he? Not Frankenstein's monster, but that's what we called him. We called him Frankenstein, and just you think Frankenstein and Doctor Who have a little bit of a chat. Everyone calls me Frankenstein, and that's the name of the creator. That's nothing, mate. Everyone calls me Doctor Who, and that's the name of the program, not the character. You sure about that? Credited as Doctor Who. What about that bit in the War Machines? That hasn't happened yet. Oh, okay. I like the cobwebs and the haunted housey steps and set. Vicky is very cheeky. And of course, yeah, Frankenstein is sort of Dracula is dubbed because obviously it turns out that he's a robot, isn't he? He's an android in an exhibition. Although that's not massively clear, to the extent that in the DVD commentary of this, Peter Purvis, who's moderating when they leave here, and I think the doctor goes, I think we must have been in the human mind. And they're not. The doctor is wrong. The doctor leaves here without ever knowing the truth, because he doesn't see the sign that says, what is it, Festival of Ghana, haunted house exhibit or whatever. It's an exhibit, it's a museum. It's not massively clear. It's sort of expecting the audience to pick up quite a lot from a sort of closing shot reveal, as I recall. We've got that to look forward to. But the clues are there with the bad dubbing of Dracula is deliberate, I think. I've no idea. That's another nice high shot of Jacqueline Hill. It's actually very effectively done, this. And, leaning against a wall that disappears. There's a lot of hokey old stuff that is hokey old stuff because it was used a lot because it works and it's good for a reason. And it's actually quite nice seeing it in Doctor Who because Doctor Who doesn't do horror that much. It's certainly not sort of universal horror, and certainly not at this stage in the show's history.
It's uncanny, it's strange and weird.
But the screaming grey lady, I don't quite know what she says. Is Rosalind de Winter, who was Vrestin, the leader of the Menoptera, and of course helped with the choreography of the Menoptera, which leads to the legendary credit on the closing titles of the web planet of Insect Movement by Rosalind de Winter, which I have on a t-shirt somewhere. And she has never been interviewed on record about Doctor Who, but I, thanks to a friend, got an address for her, and she wrote me a letter declining to be interviewed, but actually did a couple of pages of sort of memories and stuff, and is still down under. And I've got a photograph of her from Spotlight from the time, so I know what she looks like. might put those in the show notes, because I think it's quite nice sometimes to see what people look like who we don't actually see their face of in Doctor Who. We see her face in this, but it's a bit sort of under makeup, and we certainly don't know what she looks like. And that's a nice touch. These two obviously get on, and while we miss I think the sort of frosty relationship they have in the early years is really interesting. I think it would have got a bit tiresome if it had always been that much of a tetchy dynamic between them. And as I've mentioned before, I love the way that they get on. They bounce off each other. These four. I want to be with them. Well, I don't. I feel like I was intruding. I'm happy to be a not so silent but accompaniment to their travels. Oh, the TARDIS has arrived. Yeah, so so on the DVD commentary, sorry, I have to try and not get distracted. Peter Purvis, actually, he says, he responds to the Doctor saying, "Oh, we're in the human mind," going, "I don't think that works. That's, Doctor Who's never done anything like that." And they go, "No, well, it's because that's not what the answer is." So Peter took his cue from William Hartnell and had missed the sign at the end. So it wasn't clear to them when they were prepping the DVD commentary of this, which suggests perhaps it's perhaps not clear enough. And I think I only sort of really knew because I think there was a question in the Doctor Who quiz book saying what were Frankenstein and Dracula exhibits in or whatever. And it was the Festival of Ghana. Is it the 1966 Festival of Ghana? Is it 1996? We'll see. But I knew. Hello, the dark. Oh, had we seen that? I think we'd seen a Dalek hanging around earlier, hadn't we? I was banging on. There is a Dalek that you can spot hanging around before the Daleks have arrived. I like the fact that Frankenstein is in his bandages because then you get a bit of mummy thrown in for good measure as well. John Maxim playing Frankenstein was Maxim. I think his real name was John Wills. I think he's credited as John Wills when he plays a Cyberman in Tomb of the Cybermen. In one of the cyber stories. I think he obviously called himself Maxim sometimes because suggests size and getting parts for tall actors is good. You may as well highlight it. And Malcolm Rogers is playing Dracula, and he's still about. I've seen him on stage. I saw him in The Crucible at Regent's Park Open Air Theatre. I say recently. It was probably about 10 years ago. But he's also one of the policemen in... Oh, she was waiting for her cue there, wasn't she? I watched this with... Sorry, I'll finish the Malcolm Rogers point. He's one of the policemen in the Feast of Stephen episode of the Daleks Master Plan. I watched this on stage with MaureenOBrien. Or maybe it was a bit earlier when she was being spooked with Barbara, and she found it so funny. For somebody that had a reputation for not liking Doctor Who, it's not at all, and she was so gracious, and so she's just, that's brilliant. Frankenstein picking up and smashing a Dalek, the Grey Lady saying some old thing, and that's actually really spooky. The sort of ghost turning to negative and laughing and not dying. This is much creepier than I'd remembered. Maybe it's because I just watched The Woman in Black and it's Halloween. But I'd remembered this being an absolute disaster. And actually, I think it's pretty neat. And it's separated the TARDIS crew, including from Vicky, MaureenOBrien, who I watched this with on stage at the 50th anniversary thing at the Excel Arena. And she got the giggles and found it so funny. And there was something about the atmosphere of the day, and I couldn't stop laughing. And my friend Michael McManus was there, and he realised this was quite a special moment because it was genuinely very funny. Festival of Ghana 1996, cancelled by Peking. There's a whole story in that. Frankenstein's House of Horrors. It's a ghost train. It's not an exhibition, but a fun fair, ghost train type of thing. But I think that leaves the audience to fill in quite a lot of blanks there. And also, why was the Festival of Ghana cancelled because of Peking? Interesting. There's all sorts of worldwide politics possible there. But one of my favourite times in all my lucky things that I've got to do as being a ubiquitous bore on various Doctor Who projects. I'm sorry about that, everybody. And getting to interview Maureen was how killingly funny she found that, and how infectious that was. And my friend Michael McManus, bless him, realised that I really ought to have a photo of that, and he took a couple of photos of that moment, and I treasure them because it makes me smile to think of it. Is this the bit with the thick Dalek? No, it's not. I mustn't. I hope I haven't missed the thick Dalek, because that's something worth a bit of a conversation. Oh, of course. Now then, this is the robot Doctor Who in distinct. Now, which, seeing as we've just had an android Dracula who's badly dubbed, it seems to be tempting fate to then have somebody else playing an android of Doctor Who is badly dubbed, not for any reason other than that they've actually just really badly dubbed him. These Daleks look great though, don't they? Oh, so no, it's not they'll reveal the robot Doctor later. So something else happens that I've completely forgotten about in this story, because what happens between now and the end of the episode, which is the reveal of the robot Doctor, I cannot for the life of me recall. It's been a long day. You joined me at the very beginning of it when I couldn't sleep this morning, and now it's the very end of it and I was going to go to bed, but this is my Halloween treat. And there she is. There's Vicky with her hair in bunches, being curious and pesky and terrific. She's a really good actress, MaureenOBrien, as her subsequent career demonstrates. She's also written books.
Hello, Tom. Come in, please. Hold on.
And it's interesting, they sort of went for she's a different character from Susan, but they went for a similar age bracket to replace her, whether they don't replace Ian and Barbara with a man and a woman. I do think 4 regulars is quite a lot to manage, and I think that 1 male, 1 female, that's really creepy actually. A sort of shadow, a ghost of the Doctor, forming in that booth. This is, although there's been some, comedy larks, especially at the beginning when Vicky and Barbara were doing their sort of scared bit. This is much more serious and slightly creepier than I imagined, than I'd remembered.
Isn't there anything we can do?
And I've certainly enjoyed this much more than I thought I had. This proves how valuable to me, if not to you, this process has been, to be watching this in a frame of mind where I'm set to enjoy it.
We've never stayed long enough in any one place to repair the time mechanism of the TARDIS.
has been really valuable because I've emerged with a greater respect for the chase than I've ever had before. I like that. I like that bit of tenseness. Having said how nice it was that they weren't tense anymore and that they had a really nice relationship, I like that that bit of an argument between the two men. Because they weren't actually getting at each other, but it's because tension is high.
We can't go back for Vicky in the TARDIS, but we can in the Daleks' own time machine.
Oh, quite right, Ian. TARDIS seems very big, doesn't
Why
it?
not?
That would take some doing.
It's the only chance we've got. Otherwise, we'll never see Vicky again.
We have nothing to lose.
No, you don't.
And now
You
we
don't.
have even
Come
more
on.
reason to stop and fight.
You've definitely got to go and get Vicky.
Yes. 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 Our next landing will be our battleground. And we should welcome.
Oh, yeah. And so it's been, although it's a series of episodes, of sort of individual settings, there is a momentum. We're heading to a climax. Is this the bit with the thick Dalek? Yeah. Who decided that the thing to do with these creatures that terrify a generation of children is to have them coughing as they come out of the sand and then want to go, time, 4 minutes. We've never, I don't think we've ever had before or since a thick Dalek. And I think they probably learnt from their mistakes with that one. But, yeah. But I suppose they're trying things out and learning what works and what doesn't. I think I could have told them that for free. Here's the robot Doctor Who, played by Edmund Warwick, who had stood in at the last minute for Hartnell at the end of
Look swampy.
in the middle of Dalek Invasion of Earth when he hurt himself. And I remember Edmund Warwick's local paper, he was in a nursing home or something, found him or did an interview with him, and he said, I played Doctor Who, you know. And so there was a lovely interview with Edmund Warwick, who he was called Edmund, so I think I assumed he was dead because it was a very old man's name, that. I remember being thrilled when my friends phoned me and said, oh yes, in a local paper they've done an interview with Edmund Warwick. So and he's in the Keys of Marinus, of course, as the scientist Darius, who gets attacked by his own by the jungle. And again, so you've had Dracula and Frankenstein and the Beatles, and this is like Partridge in a Pear Tree, and the Mary Celeste, and it's like one of those games where they show you a tray full of things and you have to recall them all. But all these set pieces, and now they go, well, how can we beat Dracula and Frankenstein? Let's have the Doctor have to fight the Doctor. And again, I think I remember it was in the Doctor Who quiz book. It said, what story did these episode titles come from? And of course it says next step, the death of Doctor Who. That's that promises the death of Doctor Who. And of course he's set it up that it's nice because we will have the death of Doctor Who. It just will be the robot double of Doctor Who. But I've seen death used as a threat in more recent episodes where it's much more metaphorical than that. Rose Tyler, this is the story of my death. Well, not really my death, I was put on a list. But I mean, having the robot Doctor in long shot played by somebody else, and then in close up played by William Hartnell, sort of makes sense, were it not for the fact it's not in that long shot. I suppose we have to make allowances for the fact that this is much better quality than people would have watched it in at the time. Although my friend Peter actually refutes that, because that's the thing that Peter Purvis also says. Peter goes, no, actually, my friend says, no, it still would have been pretty good quality. But anyway, yeah, the robot Doctor Who, I'm looking forward to seeing in the next episode, because if I remember this episode being a mess, I certainly remember the next episode being a mess. So that will be quite interesting. But yeah, I found that thoroughly rewarding. The haunted house is a spooky thing. Dracula and Frankenstein are spooky creations. So I think the idea of getting those iconic universal horror things, which were scary. I mean, they were obviously scary in the 30s, but they were scary to me as a kid in the 80s. So I think they still retained their power. So they certainly will have done in the 60s. And to put them in the Doctor Who scenario was a very canny thing to do. It's a shorthand for really, really scary. So I think putting universal horrors in an episode of Doctor Who is my thing from episode 4 of The Chase. What is Daryl's? Daryl has chosen his thing, which is...
Number D. Is that The Chase is like a toy box. At this point in history, more so than any other point, Doctor Who was a game played in playgrounds by children and at home with Dalek toys, and they were mixing the Dalek toys up with their other toys. And this story really reflects that. You get the haunted house I already mentioned, which it's like a child playing with the different toys. They're putting a Dalek in one play set, or they're getting a teddy bear. And this story, more like anything else, I know the Stephen Moffat era really tried to replicate what it was like for how a child would think about Doctor Who, but nothing is a patch on The Chase in how it does that. And there's something about Doctor Who and kind of indoor games which it has a strange combination of anyway. I'm thinking about the floor in Death of the Daleks and the identical floor in The Five Doctors. And of course, The Five Doctors is about playing with kind of figures. And there's things like the Celestial Toymaker and the Doll's House in Night Terrors as well. But something Doctor Who feels like an indoor game to me sometimes. And The Chase has that about it as well. It's the most indoor gamey Doctor Who. You know, you can imagine children every week The Chase was on playing each episode, and one week they'd play Dracula and one week they'd play Morton Dill. I would love to see if anyone has any reminiscences of cosplaying Morton Dill in 1965. Please let me know. And that's another reason I think The Chase is brilliant. It's just a child's eye view of Doctor Who, and it really goes for it. Reason?
You heard it here first. Cosplayers, break out your Morton Dill. I mean, there's been stranger cosplay. There's a couple of guys who've cosplayed as me from the Doctor Who cookbook documentary. I'm hoping this was my granddad's dressing gown. Perhaps that'll be next. Yeah, well, I mean, I was kind of close there. Do I allow myself a point for because in saying about the universal horrors and the choice of them and what they achieve? Yeah, I think honours are even with that one. It's a good job. The rules of this are entirely unclear, and there's no prize or penalty for anybody involved. I'll just arbitrarily say, he's 4 minutes closer. Oh no, that's dangerous. I think, as my commentary for this episode has proved, I'm rather tired, so that's going to be my end for now, and my end of The Chase, which I'm not going to have done in one day. So I will do episodes in 5 and 6 in a different outfit and a different climb. But I've got through Halloween in the House of Horrors with Doctor Who, and I hope you have too. Join me again for episode 5, when I will be joined on the sofa by somebody who looks nothing like me, but who I've badly dubbed on afterwards. It'll be the death of Toby Hadoke next time on Happy Times and Places. Cheerio.
So, thank you for listening to my choices. I hope you don't judge me too harshly for my choice of story. I've got a few things on the boil, can't talk about them all, but there is an audio drama called The Baron Author, Barren Author, which stars Richard O'Brien and Sophie Aldred, and, unbelievably, in one episode, me. And that's available as a download. It should be available by the time this goes out. Search for The Baron Author. It's from Spiteful Puppet. Search for them, you'll find it. Hopefully some other stuff to announce soon. But until then, thank you for listening, and goodbye.